This is a classic tale of quick love and hard fighting down on the Texas border. Brought to you by the same author who wrote My Deputy and No Flyer Ever Lost. The story begins on the main street of a dusty town called Wharton. Two Texas Rangers, lean, tanned, and serious-looking, stood on the sidewalk. Their young faces were like stone as they watched a girl pull up to the curb in a powerful, expensive roadster with New York license plates. Ma Herp sighed, looking a bit overwhelmed. "Man," he muttered, "I wish my ma was here to see this. She's been reading all about these modern girls, but she doesn't believe they actually exist. Look at her, Bud. She's putting on her war paint right there in the car. You reckon she's planning to rob the bank?" Bud Yansy just grinned. "She's a real beauty, Sam. Even if she is, wait, Sam, do you think she hurt us?" The girl didn't seem to care. She calmly powdered her nose, adjusted a few strands of her bright red hair, and checked her reflection in a small mirror. She took out a lipstick, touched up her lips, and snapped her compact shut with a sharp click. Then she stepped out of the car and walked straight toward the two young lawmen. She couldn't have been more than 19. She was slim, graceful, and dressed in a silk outfit that made her look like the very definition of youth. Her dark, gray-blue eyes scanned the two unlucky rangers, starting at their boots and slowly moving up until she was staring them right in the face. She paused for a second to look at their heavy gun belts and the revolvers hanging at their hips. Then she looked them in the eye again and asked, with a sweet, sarcastic smile, "So, when does the rest of the circus arrive?" Now they knew for sure. She'd heard every word, and she was looking for a fight. "Well now," Ma Herp said with a grin, "it's hard to say exactly when the rest of the crew is rolling in. Right, Bud?" Now that the verbal sparring had officially started, the two of them actually felt more at ease. "That's right," Bud agreed solemnly. He looked her right in the eye, the tiny wrinkles at the corners of his dark eyes, earned from years of squinting across the shimmering desert heat, crinkling just a bit. "You see, there was a pretty nasty accident with the lion over in Laredo. It might hold the whole show up. Were you waiting to see the performance?" "Yeah," Sam chimed in. "I don't reckon that lion will ever be the same again. Will he, Bud?" The girl's eyes widened. She'd thrown the circus comment out as a double-barreled insult, payback for Sam's comment about his mother. But they had caught it and tossed it right back at her. "Why, I don't believe there's a circus coming at all," she said, trying to regain her footing. "And what?" Bud interrupted, sounding heartbroken. "Man, Sam, this here girl doesn't believe in the circus." "Don't tell me you don't believe in Santa Claus either," he asked, acting genuinely concerned. Now this was Elaine Norcross Webb, the only daughter of Charles P. Webb, a New York multimillionaire with yachts, mansions, and everything money could buy. Nobody had ever referred to her as this here girl before, at least not to her face. But she had a fighting spirit of her own, and she recovered quickly. "Fine," she said, matching Bud's serious tone. "What happened to the lion?" Ma Herp took a slow breath. It was a real tragedy. Well, what was it he was doing, Bud? You were right there when it happened. Bud shot a quick, mock-annoyed look at Sam for failing to come up with his own lie. "It was like this," Bud began, his eyes fixed on hers. "That lion had a real bad habit of trying to climb the tent pole backwards, and every time he got loose, he'd—" The playful atmosphere vanished in an instant. Two muffled gunshots rang out from the adobe house next to the bank. The door crashed open, and 5 men scrambled out into the street. A white man staggered into the doorway behind them, clutching an old-fashioned revolver. But before he could fire, the group raked the house with a hail of lead. The man pitched forward onto his face, dead or dying. The attackers turned and began sprinting up the street, heading directly toward Elaine and the two rangers. In a heartbeat, the faces of Bud Yansy and Ma Herp transformed. The humor was gone, replaced by a cold, grim mask of duty. Before Elaine could even react, she felt Bud's powerful arm wrap around her waist, forcing her down to her knees behind him. "Lie down," he commanded. The slow Texas drawl was gone. His voice was like snapping steel. Elaine watched as the two men ran into the middle of the street. As if by magic, their heavy revolvers appeared in their hands. A frantic exchange of gunfire erupted before she could even scramble back to her feet, which she did immediately, ignoring Bud's order to stay down. The dust began to settle on a scene of sudden carnage. Two of the attackers lay motionless in the dirt. A third was retreating toward the corner, firing wildly as he backed away. A fourth man didn't even try to fight. He simply bolted around the corner and vanished. The fifth man stood frozen in the center of the road, his hands high above his head in surrender. But the rangers hadn't escaped unscathed. Ma Herp was sitting in the middle of the dusty street. The right side of his face was a mask of blood, and his right arm hung uselessly at his side. He was desperately reaching with his left hand for his gun, which had spun away when a bullet tore through his wrist. Bud Yansy was still standing, his heels clicked together as if on parade. He swayed slightly as a bright red stain spread across his white shirt near the shoulder. Elaine watched his face. That playful grin had turned into a frozen, haunting little smile. His eyes, once warm and dark, were now as cold as northern ice at daybreak. The retreating gunman fired twice. Bud's revolver rose and fell in a single, fluid motion. The man whirled around as if struck by a giant's fist. His knees buckled, and he sank slowly into the dirt. As the echoes of the shots faded, a mild-looking old man stepped out from the bank. He held a revolver with a grip that was notched in several places, a silent record of past battles. He had watched the entire fight without interfering. Now he calmly tucked his gun into a holster hidden under his arm and walked over to the huddle of people gathering around the fallen rangers. Bud had collapsed, falling right across Sam's body. The old man spoke briefly to the men, lifting them up. He checked Sam's pulse and head, pulled back Bud's shirt to inspect the wound, and barked a short, sharp order. As he turned to head back to the bank, he spotted Elaine standing there, one hand pressed over her heart. He walked up to her, his drawl soft but disapproving. "Honey," he said, "you mustn't get up when the men are gunfighting. Next time, you stay down like a good girl should. Next time." Elaine gasped, her breath catching. "It happened so fast, and it tends to happen that way down here," the old man said, a little twinkle appearing in his calm blue eyes. "Every once in a while. Are they, is he? Oh, he just stood there smiling, and is he badly hurt?" "If you're talking about that worthless young Bud Yansy," replied Ranger Captain Cudray, "no, ma'am, he isn't. And neither is that scoundrel Ma Herp." Elaine realized that in the span of 5 minutes, she had been called this here girl and told how a good girl should behave. It was a far cry from the life of a New York socialite. But as she looked at the spot where Bud had stood his ground, she made a decision. She would wait a day or two before heading to the army post where her brother was stationed. At the very least, she needed to hear the rest of that story about the lion and make absolutely sure that Bud Yansy was going to be okay. "I was actually heading into the bank to cash a traveler's check," she explained, trying to find her voice. "They were talking to me right when it started. I'm Elaine Webb. My brother is Lieutenant Webb over at Fort Combs." "Well now," the old man said, "I know him well. I even knew your uncle when he was a soldier down here a long time ago. The name is Cudray, honey. I'm the one in charge of those two rascals you caught playing with our guns." Elaine stared at him. This was the famous ranger captain her brother had mentioned in his letters when describing the legends of Texas. "Honey," he continued, "once you're finished at the bank, I'd be honored if you'd come home with me to meet the prettiest girl in Texas. My wife, Mrs. Cudray, doesn't get out much these days, and she loves young people, especially pretty ones." Elaine smiled softly. "I'd love to. I just didn't want to leave until— Are you absolutely sure he isn't badly hurt, Captain?" "That Bud Yansy? He's hardly hurt at all," the old ranger promised. "Honest Injun. You go on and take care of your business, then come with me. I expect my wife will probably take you over to the hospital to visit them this evening." "Oh, I don't want to see him," Elaine said quickly, her face flushing. I just wanted to make sure that—" "Of course you don't, honey," Cudray drawled, that mischievous twinkle returning to his eyes. "There isn't a finer boy in the state. He's got himself a good piece of land, too. I'll bet you he'll be running his own company one day." Elaine drew herself up, trying to look offended. "I don't see why you're telling me all this. I haven't the slightest interest in who he is or what he owns." "Yes, ma'am," Captain Cudray said, stepping aside to let her into the bank first. "But I'd still bet a whole lot of money that you—" Elaine didn't stay to hear the end of that sentence. With her nose held high in the air, she marched straight toward the bank counter, leaving the old captain chuckling on the sidewalk. A few days later, Lieutenant John Webb was standing in front of a full-length mirror, frankly admiring his own reflection. His new tunic was crisp, adorned with the silver wings of a flyer. "Hey, Laney," he said without turning around, "is that a wrinkle up by the collar? Come over here and check." Elaine was stretched out lazily on the couch. "It isn't," she answered. "I can see from here. It fits you perfectly, Jack." "I can." "Like fun you can. Get off that couch before I come over and throw you off. This is serious business." "Oh, for Pete's sake," Elaine groaned. "I'm halfway through this story, and between you and every other infant on this base asking me how their uniforms look, I'll never finish it." She got up anyway and walked over to the mirror. "See? It's smooth except right here." She gave him a sharp pinch. "Ouch! Quit it, you monkey!" Jack yelped. "You shouldn't tickle a man without warning. I'll—" "Consider that payment for making me get up," Elaine laughed. "By the way, Jack, did you ever meet that Bud Yansy I told you about?" "No, not Bud. I've met his cousins, Jimmy and Wes. All the Yancys down here are related. Man, you ought to see Jimmy's sister, Betty. She's something else. I've seen girls under every flag that flies, and she's the absolute best of the lot." "Oh," Elaine teased. "So the picky Jack Webb has finally fallen for a Texas beauty? Just remember who you are, young man." Jack sighed. "That's the problem. I've got about as much chance with her as a jackrabbit." "What? You, a Webb, and you don't have a chance? Does she know who your family is?" Jack looked at her like she'd lost her mind. "Are you kidding me? The Yanceys were cattle barons and governors back when the Webbs were still peddling fish barefoot. Money doesn't mean a thing down here. In Texas, it's about what kind of man you are and how you handle yourself. So the proud Yanceys look down on the poor, lowly Webbs, do they?" Elaine sang out, "Don't worry, Johnny will show them." "I've told you 1,000,000 times not to call me Johnny." Jack snapped. "Look, I'm going down to try out that new 5N plane that came in this morning. You want to come?" "Not me, darling," Elaine said, stretching out again. It's too hot, for one thing. And you're too scared for another, Jack jeered from the doorway. Fine. Stay here and get fat. I'd rather stay here and stay in one piece, she called after him. But about an hour later, curiosity got the better of her. She headed down to the flying field to watch her brother test the new plane. When she arrived, a group of officers were already watching the sky. "Hey there!" a young captain greeted her. "Come sit down. That brother of yours is trying to break his neck. He's been doing barrel rolls and flying upside down just to relax. I bet the guy up there with him wishes he'd stayed on the ground. You have to be crazy to fly with Jack Webb during a test flight." "He actually asked me to go," Elaine said, sitting down. "Who did he take up?" "It must be someone who doesn't know him very well." "I'm not sure," the captain replied. "I wasn't here when they took off. Someone said it was a ranger named Yansy." Elaine sat bolt upright. "What? Which Yansy? Billy was his name. Bud. What do you care?" Captain Billy Carter grinned. "His name's gonna be Mud, if he keeps flying with Jack." "Oh, wait. Is that why we're honored with a ranger's presence? Is Jack trying to kill him because he doesn't approve Laney?" "Don't be an idiot, Billy," Elaine snapped, her eyes glued to the sky. Oh my goodness, look at him." The massive plane roared down in a tight, screaming spiral. At the last second, Jack straightened it out, skidding and side-slipping to kill the speed on the short runway. For all his reckless stunting, Jack was a pro. He brought the aircraft to a dead stop just 10 feet from where Elaine was sitting. As Jack climbed out of the cockpit, he was followed by Bud Yansy. The ranger's tanned face was a few shades paler than usual, but his expression remained as stone-cold and serious as ever. Bud reached out to shake Jack's hand. "I'm much obliged to you," he said. "That was quite a ride. Though I reckon from here on out, I'll stick to staying on top of a bucking bronc." Elaine marched up to them, fire in her eyes. "John Webb," she shouted. "What do you mean taking someone up with you while you're testing anew?" "Oh, pipe down," her brother grinned, already backing away. "He wanted to go. Didn't you, Bud? Go on. Tell my sister all about it." And with that he beat a hasty retreat. Elaine turned her gaze on the ranger. "Bud Yansy, you come over here and sit down this instant. The very idea. You haven't even been out of the hospital a week. You should have better sense." She firmly led the grinning Bud away to a quiet corner near one of the hangars. "I always wanted to see what it was like up there," he protested as they Saturday, and I'm fine. "Last time you came to visit us at the hospital, the doctor said." "I don't care what the doctor said. You shouldn't have." "Honey," Bud interrupted, his voice smooth and slow. "Don't jump on a man while he's still dizzy. Just be good." Elaine's lips tightened. "What did you just call me?" "Darlin'," Bud said with a sorrowful look. "How can I be expected to know what I'm calling anyone after being rolled around in the sky like that? Ask me again when I've got my senses back. All I know is I'm sitting here with you. I heard a man say once that when a fellow gets dizzy as the dickens, he always says exactly what he's thinking." Elaine eyed him with deep suspicion. "You are a fraud," she declared. "No, I'm not," Bud countered. "My head is clearing up fast now, and I remember. I came all the way over here to tell you that after your second visit to the hospital, I decided you were exactly that." "I was what?" Elaine asked. "What I called you when I was dizzy," Bud explained with a wide grin. Elaine tried to look grim, but her resolve was softening. "Well, I can see you're still dizzy as the dickens. You'd better come back to Jack's place with me and let the cook make you something cold to drink. You aren't well at all, Mr. Yancey. Come on." She slipped her slender hand into his, much to the visible annoyance of several young officers watching from across the field. As they walked, her tone turned serious. That day in Wharton, those men. What had they done? Were they trying to rob the bank? No, Bud said, the grin returning. They were some of Garcia's men from across the border. They were working a deal with a character named Apache Brown. He's pretty well tied in with those outlaws. Or at least, Bud corrected himself, he was. Then why did they try to kill him? Elaine asked. Well, now, Bud replied. I don't reckon they actually planned on it. It might have been the other way around. Old Apache Brown was the type to reach for his gun the second he got frustrated, and it didn't take much to set him off. He probably thought they were holding out on him. But won't this Garcia try to, come after you and Ma Herp? Yes, ma'am, Bud answered cheerfully. I expect he will. He's been trying to get us for a long time now. Us and the Border Patrol boys, too. Elaine's temper flared. You seem to think it's funny. Goodness, don't you care at all whether you get killed or not? You're darn right I do, Bud said instantly. I don't want to get killed at all, especially not now. Why especially now? She asked as they started up the steps to the veranda. If she had hoped to catch him off guard with that question, she was dead wrong. Bud Yansy was the kind of man who gave a straight answer to a straight question. He stopped on the top step and turned to face her. Because, he said, looking her right in the eye, I've fallen in love with you, and I plan on living a long, long time after we're married. Elaine gasped. You've after we're what? Well, Mr. Bud Yansy, you've got a long, long life ahead of you before that ever happens. You've only known me for 3 weeks. How do you even know that I don't, Bud interrupted with a mock-sad expression. That's exactly what's keeping me so dizzy. Do you reckon that you might? No, I don't. Elaine interrupted right back. And furthermore, I think you'd better sit down on this step until your head clears, Mr. Yansy. I'll have to, Bud said, making his voice sound as faint as possible. Better tell the cook to hurry with that drink. I think I'm getting worse. He's coming right now, and I think you're far too dizzy to have anything strong in yours. You're getting plain lemonade. My gosh, Bud sighed, sinking onto the step. I sure wish you hadn't asked me that question. Then, because they were both young and the world felt wide open, they both started laughing. And Elaine sat down right there beside him. 2 weeks later, Lieutenant Jack Webb was sprawled out on the living room couch, his right arm in a sling and a thick bandage wrapped around his head. He looked up as Elaine walked through the door. Where the heck have you been? He demanded. I got here as soon as I heard, she cried, rushing to his side and kneeling by the couch. She gave him a quick kiss. What happened, Jack? Tell me, are you badly hurt? You've got to be more careful. Is your arm broken? Who, me? Jack grunted. Nah, I just keep it in this sling because it's cooler this way and... John Norton Webb, answer me. What happened and how bad is it? I'm fine. Stop mothering me, Jack muttered. I was testing out a new plane this morning. When I brought her in, the landing gear just snapped. I crashed the crate, that's all. And ended up with a broken arm and how's your head, Jack? Just a scratch, honestly. No big deal. Now answer me, where have you been? Elaine leaned back. I was up at the Lazy W ranch visiting Ma Herp. Bud took me up there, and I finally met Betty Yansy, Jack. Jack sat up as much as he could. You did? Isn't she incredible? Listen, Laney, do me a favor and put in a good word for me, okay? Tell her what a great guy I am, how I'd make a perfect husband, and... Forget it. Dear own bragging little brother. But oh, Jack, you'd absolutely love Ma Herp. She's— Wait, Ma Herp. Jack interrupted. Where are you getting this Ma stuff from? Everyone calls her that, Elaine defended. Bud told me to. That reminds me, Jack said, trying to look stern. Why are you running all over the state with that ranger anyway? Doesn't he have any actual work to do? Every time I ask where you are, someone says, Oh, she just left with Bud Yansy for somewhere or other. Elaine tried to look innocent. Why, darling, I just wanted to see if a Webb could actually make a Yansy, well, like us. I've been doing it all for your sake, really. Is that so? You keep playing around with these Texas boys, and you're going to wake up married. Elaine laughed. Don't worry, Jack. I can take care of myself. That's what all you modern girls think, Jack grumbled, clearly cranky from being stuck on the couch. But seriously, what was Ma Herp like? Oh, she's a gem. She's about 80 years old, and she's lived through it all. Indians, outlaws, the works. She sits up there on that massive ranch and bosses everyone around. The Herps, the Yanceys, everybody. She has the most beautiful silver hair, but her eyes are still black and sharp as a hawk's. You should have seen the way she looked me over when Bud and Sam Herp brought me in to meet her. Why'd you call Sam a darn fool? Jack asked lazily. And do me a favor, go find the cook. I need him to find my pipe. It's right on the couch next to you, dumbbell, Elaine answered with classic sisterly honesty. I called him that because of how he introduced me. He told her, Ma, you always claimed there was no such thing as these modern girls you've been reading about. Well, me and Bud caught us one down in Wharton and tamed her just enough to bring her up here for you to look at. Jack chuckled. No way. What did she say to that? Well, first she looked at them and said, You young scoundrels, get out of here right now, you hear me? And honestly, Jack, they both bolted. John laughed out loud. And then what, Laney? Well, Elaine admitted. She told me to sit down and started firing questions at me. A lot of them. Hard ones. Jack grinned. Some of them, Elaine confessed. And then she made me open my compact and show her exactly how I use rouge and powder. She asked me why I even bothered, since I was already a right pretty girl. When I told her that all the girls do it, she just snorted. That's the only way to describe it. I bet she did, Jack said, clearly enjoying the mental image. Anyway, we talked for a while longer. When I was leaving, she called me over, kissed me on the cheek, and said, Sugar, you're a right good girl and a smart one. You can't fool me at all. And then Elaine added with a mischievous grin. She mentioned she'd heard quite a bit about that poor fish of a brother of mine who's been chasing after Betty Yancey. Based on what she heard, she called you what was the word? Oh, a no-account scoundrel of a flyer. Okay, now you're just making things up, Jack groaned. Go make me a glass of iced tea, will you? And spike it heavy with some of that corn liquor. I'll make the tea, but I'll spike it light, if I spike it at all, Elaine called back over her shoulder as she headed for the kitchen. Corn liquor and flying don't mix, my lad. Ah, have a heart. Jack complained to her disappearing back. Elaine pulled the car over at the very crest of a hill and stood up to get a better look. Bud, she said solemnly, I think that's the most beautiful view I've ever seen. I've been to Switzerland, and even there. Bud Yancey, are you even listening to me? No, Bud answered from the passenger seat. I'm watching something. Watching what? Elaine sat back down and followed his gaze. Where? Show me, Bud. Over there on the left. No, follow my finger. See, way over there. Just on the other side of that bunch of chaparral. What is chaparral? Elaine interrupted. Oh, for crying out loud. That thicket over there. That's the borderline, and hot damn. Elaine finally saw what had caught his eye. Small, white puffs of smoke were drifting up from the thicket. A group of men on horseback suddenly burst out of the brush, galloping south toward Mexico. A few seconds later, she spotted two men on foot emerging from the greenery. They ran to where two horses were hitched, vaulted into their saddles, and began riding along the edge of the brush. That's Sam and Bill Earp, darn their hide, Bud announced. Sneaking off on a job without me. What? How on earth can you tell who they are from this far away? Elaine asked, squinting. I can barely even see them. What were they doing? Bud Yansy, you'd better start talking. Shucks, Bud said, his eyes still locked on the distant riders. I can see 'em plain as day. Those rascals must have gotten a tip that something was coming across the border. Just wait until I catch up with those polecats, leaving me behind like that. Did you hear a word I said? Elaine demanded. I'm not used to having my questions ignored, Mr. Yancey. What were they doing down there? I just told you, Bud answered simply. Some guys were trying to sneak across the line, and Sam and Bill Earp stopped them. That's all. How descriptive. Elaine snapped. Some guys tried to cross, and the Earps stopped them. What a storyteller you are. That explains everything, doesn't it? Doggone it, Bud answered, looking genuinely surprised. How else am I supposed to say it? It's not what you say, it's the way you're saying it. Elaine snapped. You just tossed that at me like a bone to a dog. Who do you think you are, talking to me like that? I'm not some. For Pete's sake, Bud interrupted, still bewildered. I don't know anything else about it, honest. You asked and I... Yes, I did. Elaine's jaw set. Her hand gripped the gear shift, and her foot found the starter. Well, I'm going down there right now to see for myself. Hold on, Bud said, sitting up straight. You can't go down there. There might be more of them who snuck over before Sam and Bill arrived. What? I can't? Who are you to tell me what I can do? Are you afraid, Mr. Yancey? And you a ranger? I told you, don't do it, Bud said. As he spoke, he jammed his left foot against the gear shift to lock it and reached over to click off the ignition. How dare you? Elaine flared. She had the kind of temper people always associate with red hair, and hers wasn't auburn or bronze. It was fiery brick red. Take your foot away. Get out of this car. I won't, Bud replied flatly. Not an inch. That's dangerous ground down there right now, and you aren't going. Period. I'm not, period. Elaine mocked, her lips thin with rage. Well, I am. I'm going as far as I want, Mr. Texas Ranger Yancey. Why, you are afraid. You're as white as a sheet. That's right, Bud drawled, his voice turning silky and dangerous. I'm afraid. Then get out and wait here until I come back. I don't reckon I can do that, Bud answered, because you isn't going in the first place. Oh, I am. Now take your foot away, please. Wait a minute, Bud said, trying to be reasonable. I don't think you understand. If any of those raiders made it across earlier, they're hiding out somewhere. If we stumble onto them, I might not be able to hold them all off. Then you'd be. If we see them, Elaine interrupted, you can just jump out and run. Since you can see so far, you'll have a head start. Bud Yancey's face went bone white at that insult. The Yanceys weren't exactly known for having a long fuse, and Bud was no exception to the family rule. But when he spoke, his voice never rose above a soft, dangerous drawl. Yes, ma'am. I suppose I could do that if we were actually going down there. But we aren't. I reckon you better head back to the fort." Elaine took one long look into Bud's eyes. They were like black ice, and realized she wasn't going to win this round. "Fine," she said bitterly. "I'm not big enough to fight you much as I'd like to. You can take your foot away now. I'll take you back to the fort where you'll be safe, Mr. Yancey. But before I start this car, I'll tell you one thing. I think you're nothing but a coward, and I don't ever want to see you again." "I'm truly sorry you feel that way," Bud answered courteously, removing his foot from the gear shift. The drive back to the fort was dead silent. Not a single word passed between them. When they finally pulled up in front of her brother's quarters, Bud stepped out of the car. He tipped his wide, soft hat, gave a polite bow, and said, "Thank you very much for a right pleasant ride." Then he turned and walked toward Captain Carter's house without looking back. Elaine sat gripped at the steering wheel for a long moment. Her face was still flushed with anger, but she didn't look nearly as happy as a young lady should look after finally telling a man exactly what she thought of him. "Where's that fellow who's been tied to your apron strings, Laney?" Jack asked at the breakfast table a few days later. "He hasn't shown his face in over a week." "I don't know, and I don't care," Elaine replied shortly. Jack nearly choked on his coffee. "What? Don't tell me he actually quit you." Elaine looked at her brother with cold indifference. "You know," she said, her voice eerily calm, "I've always wondered how you managed to graduate from West Point. Looking at you laugh like that, I wonder even more. What's that supposed to mean, Laney?" Jack grinned. "I thought for sure you and Bud were. It means you look like an absolute idiot. And frankly, you aren't far from being one at the best of times." "Good heavens," Jack teased. "It must have been a fierce battle. Do you mean to tell me you let a Yancey ruffle a Webb's feathers like this? Go make up with him, kid, and do it fast. I need your help with Betty." "Well, you won't get it," Elaine declared firmly. "And I am not making up with him, even if you get the chance." Jack jeered. "He hasn't exactly been hanging around, has he? Couldn't you hold on to him?" Jack stopped suddenly, catching the look on her face. His tone shifted instantly. "What's the matter, sis? Tell me about it, if you can." "Of course I can. It was that day we drove out to see some man Bud wanted to talk to. On the way back, I stopped to look at the view. There was a fight down in the brush, the chaparral, and after it was over, I wanted to go down and see it. He wouldn't let me. He jammed his foot against the gear shift, and—" "Wait a minute," Jack interrupted. "What happened before the foot jamming? You say there was a fight in the brush? You mean a fight in the car, don't you?" "No, I don't." "Well, not that kind of fight, though there would have been if I were big enough to lick him. He held the gear shift with his foot, so I couldn't move it." "That's what I'm trying to get at. Why did he do it?" "He said it was dangerous to go down there. He said there might be more raiders hiding out." "And you were going anyway?" "Yes, I was, or no, I wasn't really. But after he said I couldn't, then I decided I would." "Oh, I see," Jack said, nodding slowly. "He said you couldn't, so you were going just to prove him wrong. Then he stopped you. Did it ever occur to you, Laney, that a Texas Ranger might actually know whether a place is dangerous in his own territory?" "No, it didn't. And even if it were dangerous, he had no right to stop me." "Well, bless my persecuted soul," Jack said in honest amazement. "And you're sitting there looking at least half intelligent. You little fool. It was his job to stop you. Do you think he'd just let you drive right into an ambush?" "I wasn't going into an ambush," Elaine cried furiously. "And if I were, he should have protected me. He was just afraid and—" "What, afraid?" "Bud Yancey." Jack laughed. Now I know you've lost your mind. What on earth is the matter with you, Laney? My gosh, if being in love makes people this crazy, I'm glad I'm... Oh. Elaine stood up abruptly. You make me so damn mad. Well, Jack grinned, standing up with her. So does Mr. Yancey. Now I wonder who the heck that is? Look at him take that turn. Take it easy, buddy. That car won't take much more of... Holy cats! He's coming here. Jack ran down the steps to meet a beat-up car that was charging toward the house like it was leading a cavalry strike. A young Mexican man jumped out of the car almost before it came to a halt and began shouting at Jack. Elaine rushed down the steps, trying desperately to understand him. Her Spanish was limited to about 20 words, and this man was firing them off at 300 a minute. She caught the words for the Rangers and bad battle. Then she heard, the Ranger Earp and the Ranger Yancey very bad men. Jack! She cried, grabbing her brother's arm. What is it? Tell me. What? Where the... Go away, Elaine. I won't. Tell me. Fine, you want to know? I'll tell you, Jack snapped. Garcia's gang crossed the border to get revenge on the Rangers who cleaned them out a while back. This guy says they found them, and there's a massive shootout going on down near the old 3C ranch. He's a friendly witness and came to get help. He says Earp and Yancey are holding the fort, but they won't last long. He also says they're fighting like demons. Now get out of the way. I've got to phone Bill Carter and get the infantry over there fast. Elaine turned directly to the Mexican man. Which Yancey? The Senor Bud Yancey, and he stopped as Elaine whirled around and sprinted back toward the house. Can cars get to the 3C ranch? Jack asked the man. No, senor, the man replied, wrestling with his English. The bridge at the valley it is underwater. Much water. Damn it, underwater. How close can a car get? 2 miles. And this Garcia, he has many men with him. Is that so? Jack muttered, heading for the phone. Well, I'm going to have a lot of men on his tail too, and soon. Webb slammed down the phone after a brief, heated exchange with Captain William Carter. Carter was already rallying 50 battle-hungry infantrymen, and his final words were a blunt warning to Jack to stay off the line and stay out of the way. Oh, for the love of... Jack groaned, pacing the room. Every single plane is out on maneuvers, and here I am with a busted arm. I'm going with the weight. Where do you think you're going? Elaine had reappeared, but she wasn't in her sundress anymore. She was zipped into her flying overalls. That Martin bomber is on the line, she said firmly. I'm taking it. What? That old crate? It's out of commission, and even if it weren't, you couldn't fly that monster. Major Carnduff told me I could fly anything on this base. Elaine shot back. I can fly as well as you can. Better, Jack admitted distractedly. Much better. But it doesn't matter because there's no plane to fly. The oil line is shot on that bomber. Look, there goes Bill Carter and his crew. Outside, a car packed to the brim with soldiers roared past. Bill swiped the colonel's favorite car. I'm catching the next load. You stay here, Laney. My car is faster than anything they've got, Elaine pointed out, her voice dropping to a subtle, persuasive hum. Jack paused. Yeah, you're right. I'll take it. Go get it like a good girl. Manuel, stay here and get some food. We'll make sure you're paid for the tip. Elaine brought the roadster around, but she didn't budge from the driver's seat. You can't shift gears with one arm, she noted coolly. I'll drive you as far as the bridge. Jack narrowed his eyes. He knew his sister. You will? And then what? Holy cats, there go 2 more cars. Fine, drive me to the bridge. Catch Bill if you can. Then you turn around and come straight back. You hear me?" "Yes, dear," Elaine said meekly. She was too meek. Jack gave her a grim look. "I mean it, sis." Elaine didn't argue further. She just put her foot down. The roadster didn't just catch the infantry. It screamed past them long before the river was in sight. When they reached the crossing, the bridge was buried under 4 feet of churning, brown water. Usually it was a peaceful stream, but a cloudburst in the hills had turned it into a violent torrent. About a mile upstream, a small, rickety footbridge spanned a deep canyon where the water hadn't reached yet. "There's your bridge, Jack. Up there on the right." "Fools rush in," Jack muttered with a grin. "I'll wait for Bill and the boys." They didn't have to wait long. Captain Carter pulled up and flashed Elaine a cheerful smile. "Hey, Laney, you here to play nurse?" "Hardly," Elaine snapped. "I'm going home. My brother won't let me lift a finger." "For once, the man is showing some sense," Carter laughed. "All right, you grunts, move it. Sergeant, leave 4 men with the cars. Let's go." Elaine watched as 50 soldiers, her brother among them, began a dead sprint for the footbridge. It looked less like a military maneuver and more like a foot race. "I'll never forgive them," she muttered to the wind. "Either of them." She threw the car into gear, waved a sarcastic goodbye to the 4 disappointed soldiers left behind, and sped off toward the fort. But 5 miles down the road, she yanked the wheel sharply to the left. "I'll bet anything I can find a way around the back of the 3C," she whispered to the steering wheel. "I remember that old ranch from the other day." The trail narrowed into a twisting, rocky path. Elaine focused, her knuckles white on the wheel. About half an hour into the wilderness, she spotted a familiar landmark. "That road I saw before, it should be right past that big rock. There it is." The trail, branching off to the left, was barely a trail at all, let alone a road. It was hardly wide enough for a car, even at the start, and now it was choked with fallen timber and jagged rocks. Elaine stood up in the seat, surveying the mess. "Good heavens," she muttered. "That cloudburst must have shredded the path. I can't drive over that. I guess I'll have to head back." She paused, her jaw setting. "Well, I won't. That's that. This trail leads into the hills right behind the 3C, and I'm going to find out what's happening." Since the car couldn't talk back and was wise enough not to argue with a determined redhead, Elaine simply climbed out and started up the trail on foot. It was a grueling trek. She climbed steadily for over an hour, her legs aching. Just as she began to doubt her sense of direction, the sharp crack of gunfire drifted down the trail. A moment later, she heard the frantic patter of running feet. Up ahead, the trail curved sharply around a massive boulder and a jutting ledge. Without a second's hesitation, Elaine rolled off the rock she'd been sitting on and scrambled into a tangle of fallen branches and brush behind it. In that moment, she proved she really was a smart girl, as Ma Herp had said. On the border, the old rule still holds. If it's strange, it's hostile. Hidden under the brush, she peered through the leaves. 3 more shots rang out, followed by a high, wailing cry. "Madre de Dios! Soy muerto!" Then, rounding the curve at a dead run, came 4 of Garcia's outlaws. They were a mess. Their colorful serapes were torn and caked with mud. Their heads were bare, and they scrambled over rocks and fallen trees with the desperate energy of men who knew death was at their heels. They sprinted past Elaine's hiding spot so fast they didn't even glance in her direction. "My goodness!" she gasped, her heart hammering against her ribs. The soldiers must have. She stopped mid-sentence. Her eyes widened. "Oh, It's Bud." She didn't wait. She began shoving her way out of the brush. She slipped in between the soldiers, carrying the stretcher, and took a firm hold of Bud's hand. "Bud, are you all right? Please tell me." "I am now," Bud answered. He managed a grin. It was weak and a little shaky, but it was a grin nonetheless. "Darlin', somehow I knew it was you up there on the trail, but at the same time I couldn't quite believe it. Honey, you're a real special girl, and I love you like—" "Bud Yansy, you are not allowed to talk. Just lie still," Elaine whispered, her voice trembling. "Bud, I'm so sorry for what I said back then." "Darlin'," Bud interrupted softly, "you better tell me right now if you're going to love me back. I want to hear it while my head is clear and I'm not dizzy and—" "If you don't keep quiet," Elaine threatened, though her eyes were shining with tears, "I won't ever tell you that I love you. And I do, Bud. I really do."